actually were getting noticed by comic writers and artists. I saw like they would even ask, I think they would ask to come on and be interviewed by
I
you
mean,
guys.
that was part of it that was so fun. And when we would go to Comic Con and we would talk to them and like hang out, like literally hang out with, some of these creators.
Mhm.
It was mind blowing, really. But
I mean,
yeah.
Chip Zdarsky, he's like writing all the Marvel comics now. He's like
Oh
the
wow.
one of their top guys. And I know
Yeah.
like didn't Eric kiss him on the head or something, or he kissed Eric on the head.
No,
I
I
don't
think
know.
it was the other way
Yeah, I think
around,
it was the other way
maybe.
around.
Yeah.
And also the main reason why I asked Grace to come on is because she's the reason that I got to be a walker on The Walking Dead back in season 2. And you and I were there together for 12 to 14-hour days, mostly at night, filming the segment where the zombies storm Herschel's farm. And so I thought it'd be fun to cover the episode with you and then talk about our experiences filming it.
Yeah, watching the episode, like everything was like rushing back. It's, oh my God, what a great experience.
Yeah, such a good one. I figure we'll go over the episode like we always do, but while we're talking, either one of us can feel free to mention any personal experience as we go along. But then we'll have a segment dedicated where we talk more about what the whole thing was like, and some listeners wrote in some questions, so we can answer those too.
Oh, fun.
So it's The Walking Dead season 2, episode 13, Beside the Dying Fire. I've been looking forward to this one. As always, what did you think in general, Grace, guest of honor?
Ooh. Um, I loved it. And one of the most fun things of rewatching this episode is I didn't realize how much I had forgotten. So
Mm.
some of the things that happened really hit me, or some of the visuals like just really hit me. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot, I forgot that was coming.
Mhm.
And so part of it was felt new again. And, it's such a fun action packed episode anyway, but yeah,
Yeah.
I liked it.
You haven't watched in a long time, right? The Walking
Right.
Dead. And
Right.
you didn't watch any like season 2 episodes to get ready for this or anything? This is just like,
No, and that's like I was gonna do that, and you're like, "Oh, you don't have to," and I was like, "Yeah, okay, I don't have to." And then when I was watching, I was like, "Wow, that was a really bad idea for me not," because
oh,
I
it's
really
okay.
didn't realize how much it made things fresh, but also I
Yeah.
was like, "Wow," there were some things I was missing out on,
I'm
some of
just trying to
the
get a sense of where you are, because I decided a while back not to go back and rewatch any early Walking Dead as we went along podcasting over the years, because I wanted to do this rewatch and come
yeah.
to it after a long time away. So we have, of course, we're doing this rewatch, so we've gotten all the way through season 1 and 2. But yeah, stuff, I forgot stuff too. Like I didn't remember how fucking out of it Rick was at the end, just so aggro. I did not
Mm.
remember. I remember him saying this is not a democracy anymore, but in my mind that was kind of almost a strong, powerful moment, and here I'm just like, he's totally lost his shit.
Everyone is literally like, this
Like,
fucking
this
guy.
guy, like, what the hell are we doing? But anyway, I don't want to get too deep into it. I thought it was great. To me, this episode always felt like the zombies storm the farm, and then some other stuff that I don't care about happens. That may be a personal thing.
It surprised me how the storming of the farm's over by 50% of the episode. I'm like,
Yes, it surprised me too, given that we worked so
Yeah.
many hours on it, and then when we went back and watched it. But it does, even just trying to take an objective view, it feels like, wow, there's this big seasonal climactic moment, and then there's the aftermath, which is like the second 60% of the episode. It does kind of feel like almost a epilogue kind of a feel, but it was
it's
good.
really, really setting up for season 3, though, isn't it? It's really
Yes.
table setting. Yeah.
What about you, Lucy?
Oh, I liked it. Yeah, we had fun playing Spot Jason. Peter's like, why didn't you just bite Carl? He was like that close. I'm like, I will ask. I will ask that.
I definitely could have reached out and grabbed them, but I didn't want to get fired, so I didn't do it.
No, it was good. It's great. I think it's one of those ones that, like, knowing some of the zombie logic and some of the tactics the group have now, it's kind of like, really, that lost you the farm. Like if that had happened in like season 9 or 10, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's nothing. But it also makes sense. Like one of the things Peter pointed out when we were watching it is like the Greens haven't actually seen any of the devastation. So like the survivors that have come through Atlanta, this won't be the first time they've seen like absolute scenes. But like the Greens and even Rick have not really seen chaotic downfalls like this because Rick was in a coma and the Greens were secluded on the farm. So that kind of made me a bit more sympathetic towards it.
Yeah, that's interesting you put it that way, because I've always thought during the course of The Walking Dead, they always seem to come upon these people who somehow escaped a lot of trauma, you know. Even in Alexandria, it seems like they were sort of secluded from it until Rick comes, and then the shit always hits the fan. But actually, even Rick is like that a little bit. He escaped it for that month there. The main part of it.
Yeah, he did.
Billions of people died. So, Grace, then you just want to sort of jump in, or do you have points to go over?
I did write down some points, but
you go first.
Okay. Well, and this is, I don't know if this is smack in the middle or not, but
it's okay.
One thing I really enjoyed this time watching was just the rise of Herschel. I was thinking of it as, and it's not, just because of his badass rifle with, unlimited bullets, but it was really his determination and his strength. And I feel like it was kind of coming out for the first time, this is where I started to get invested in his character. And I think part of it is that with TV Dale dying, TV Herschel's kind of gets to step into some of comic Dale's characteristics, or he gets to take he's becoming more of that. But I just liked his, this is my farm, I'll die here, and even if that wasn't the greatest decision, he just had that determination and for looking out for his girls and all that. And and he's funny because he's still Herschel and that religious guy, and and I think that's really also why I liked to see this, is because he starts off as kind of this crazy old man, but now we see more of the wizened old man come out. But we still have that Herschel, he's still true to himself, where Maggie's like she says a swear word or something when they're on the road. He's like, watch your mouth.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah. She says we'll be sitting there having our asses hanging out or something, with our asses hanging out. And he's like, watch your mouth.
But yeah, like he's just visually, the way he plants himself right front and center in front of his farmhouse, and he's got that magic shotgun and just blowing zombies away for a good portion of it. It just feels like such a strong stance that he's putting on, and even when Rick's dragging him away, but it's my farm. It's like, dude, come on. But I got shot right in the head in that, he's standing there and you see all the Zeds coming up and the farm is burning in the background, and you can see my head framed by the loft that's on fire, the opening to the loft of the barn, and then Herschel shoots me and you can see the CG blood splatter as my head explodes and I fall to the ground. That was like I felt the most honored in that part, because somebody did CG on me afterwards,
Yeah, I think that was one of the special things, watching, is getting to see our own heads explode at, one point or another in the show.
It was crazy. Okay, Lucy, what about you?
I quite like the cold open. I'd forgotten about the cold open, but I loved the silent way that it followed the herd formation, and it kind of tied seasons 1 and 2 together, because I'm pretty sure they were eating Rick's horse when we first see them. And going through the timeline, that would make sense, because we see a very prominent full moon in last week's episode and again in this week's episode. And as the zombies are moving, you see the moon getting bigger. Like there's a point where it's a half crescent moon and things like that. And I'm like, oh, that's actually quite a neat way to track the time, because Rick's been awake for about 3 weeks. So we're seeing, I think, 3 weeks of herd formation here. So they start by following a helicopter,
which Rick saw or at least he saw a helicopter.
He saw
in
the start of that
series premiere. Yeah.
He did. So then we see them start to follow that. We see them walking on the highway. We see them scattered in a field near the farm, and then they reach a fence, and sort of the dead mass collapses it. I think it says trespass, it's your ass, which is quite funny. I don't know if that's a Herschel sign or not. And we see them kind of dispersed.
Maggie,
in
probably.
woods at night with the full moon. Yeah. Herschel comes and censors it with like stars. He's like, you can't write that. And then the gunshot. So it's Carl shooting Shane that gets their attention. And then we see this amazing shot, the reverse of what we saw at the end of last week's episode, with Carl and Rick from behind and the farm in front of them.
Yeah.
And this herd coming towards them. And I think the introduction
and Rick, Carl's like, what happened to Shane? Like, why did you? And then Rick's like, oh, thank God, there's a herd of zombies here.
Yeah, I know. He's like, oh no, a herd. Oh, bummer. Oh, dang.
I was just gonna tell you.
I think like the introduction of herds as well starts to up the stakes a little bit. And we see, I think at the start of season 3, that herds, they start getting cut off from certain routes due to herds forming and things like that. So herds are something that are going to come back again and again throughout the show. And this is the first one that we see. And I like that we get to see how it comes to be. Is it herd or horde? I'd say herd. Maybe a horde.
They call them herds. Yeah. A horde is more like, it feels like an active like group of crazy warriors or something, a horde of monsters. But herd is more like animals, you know, more mindless, I would say.
I think that tracks. So yeah, for me, I thought the cold open was actually a nice way to sort of situate how did we get here? How did this happen? And it seems logical to me that over the course of the 3 weeks that could have come to pass and they could have massed together. So I like that they answered that question that they'd only just asked.
Yeah, you just cleared it up for me, because I stupidly had just been thinking this all happened within a day or something. But no, the zombies took a while to get there.
Yeah, I think what I liked is that they showed it kind of incrementally. Like it starts with just a few following the helicopter, and then they kind of gather more momentum, and they're clearly quite aimless until they hear a big noise or something to drive their attention. And yeah, 3 weeks to me seems reasonable, knowing what we know about where the group have traveled from and so on. So yeah,
I wonder if Gimple intended, sort of in a retcon, for this helicopter to be a CRM helicopter. What do you think?
So I wondered that, but then I remembered in season 3 the governor has a helicopter, or there's something about the governor and a helicopter.
Yes, there
but
is. Yeah.
Both could stand.
Military.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be.
Maybe.
I'd love it if they went back and like retouched them like they did with the Star Wars films, like adding Hayden Christensen at the end and just like put the fucking CRM logo on them. Like, it was there all the time.
Well, they could then put Denai Guerrera's face on Michonne if they were going to do that.
Right.
All right. So my first one was going to be what you just said, but I'll just skip over that and go straight to my number 2 point. Zeds attack the farm / go Zeds. Because I'm on the zombie side.
Yeah, we're totally on the zombie side.
So
how many of you, sorry, this is probably a question.
No, it's okay.
Time, but
throw it in.
How many of you were there? Was everyone that we saw a real person? Was there any CGI zombie making?
I don't think so. Right?
Wow.
In the not on the farm, I don't think. I think everybody was a real person. And actually, some of the people in the very, very back, they were in costume, but they didn't even have their face done or anything.
Interesting.
Some people in the way back. But there were CGI moments, because I was on the scene, I think it was the day before Jason got there, the one where they break down that fence. And they're in that horse field, and there was actually horse manure there on the ground that we had to step around, FYI. But when they show that scene from overhead, like those are CGI zombies.
So you were there. I was going to ask you that. When they broke through the fence, you were one of those?
Yes. And actually, like a split second before the scene changes, I like bump into the fence. I have like this really oddly black nose.
So were you all, I mean, it was like a, situation like at a concert when everybody's trying to push up to the stage and they get squished together. Was it uncomfortable?
It was actually semi-treacherous because the ground was not even at all. There was the horse manure, and then on the other side of the fence, and they didn't show this, I guess it got cut, but they had these fake bodies just laying on the ground because I guess there were supposed to be trampled zombies, that there were so many, the forest was so huge that some were getting trampled. So we also had to navigate around those and not trip. So it was a little scary, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to be the one that falls and actually get trampled, you know.
Right. There's like, well, there's one extra body. What happens? Yeah, I felt it was just a little treacherous. I remember one time when we had to go a little faster than normal and the ground was muddy and I was kind of slipping around, but I was trying to slip how a zombie would slip and not a person. And I thought I was going to fall on my ass. But then another time when we were all like, Glenn and Maggie were in the Hyundai and they had to stop at one point because all the zombies were right in front of them clawing at the windshield. And I was one of those. And we sat there for a while just waiting for them to do the shot. And, you know, just kind of weird, just staring right at Steve and Yun and Lauren Cohan sitting there in the car chatting with each other, right? And then we tried to like get their attention, rawr, they would kind of laugh, but they were cool. And then, but anyway, when the car drove off, like kind of sped away, I remember like Greg Nicotero was directing that little part, and he was all, "Oh, let's do it like this." He was really excited about it. He was just such a fan. But anyways, I was afraid that the car was going to run over my feet, but it didn't.
Yeah.
Because it was just kind of like they didn't give us any instructions. I'm like, well, I guess you should just take it for granted not to let the car run over your feet. Anyway, let's see. So when Herschel and Lori and everyone saw the Zeds coming, they like turn out the lights, but they get ready to fight. And my first thought, having watched the whole series, is get in a car, drive away a little bit, blast a stereo, you know,
right.
Lure them away with sound. And Andrea did say, we kill as many as we can, and then we use the cars to lead the rest of them off the farm. And I'm like, okay, so what went wrong with that? They didn't use sound. And I think there were just too many of them to handle. But if they had used sound, then maybe they could have done a better job, you know?
Yeah.
And I also always think, why didn't you just go back to the farm after they passed, at least go check and see if they just went right through, because they came from Atlanta. So did they just be like, oh, this seems like a nice place to settle forever? You know?
Yeah, in the comics they go back to Glenn goes back, I think. Did the Greens all go back as well, Grace? I feel like people
I cannot remember.
I feel like there's Farm 2.0. But they had
that sounds familiar.
I feel like that's what they're trying to cover their asses with when they're like, oh, the herds kept cutting us up, and I'm like, yeah, did they not?
So then Rick and Carl run to the barn, and his plan is to light up the barn to stop some from reaching the house and distract the others. And as far as I could tell, we didn't see any Zeds actually distracted by the fire.
No.
A little later, Beth says the barn's on fire, and Patricia says they're headed for it. Maybe Rick said it to draw them in. So maybe it was working, but maybe I was thinking, maybe I'm thinking too much, probably am, but maybe the gunfire from everybody else pulled them away from the fire. If they would have just not fired at them, maybe because there's a 3-episode run in season 6, episodes 7, 8, and 9, where walkers have stormed Alexandria, and in episode 9, Daryl fills a pond with fuel and ignites it with that RPG, and a big thing of fire comes up, and most of them just go right into it. They're like, fire. And I always felt like that contradicted our episode, because when the barn went up in flames, we didn't care. We're just like, no, we want to eat the people. So it's a little bit of a flub there, I feel like. I don't know. But then a few of them get into their vehicles and start firing. And I remember watching that, Rita's driving around on his motorcycle, and Steven and Yun and Lauren Cohan in the Hyundai, and Andrea and T-Dog in the big blue truck. I'm pretty sure it was, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure it was them driving the whole time, right? I don't remember any stunt drivers or anything.
No, it was them the whole time.
Wow.
And, we have to shoot it so many times that they really went around a lot,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
For like hours, it felt
way,
like. And they
yeah,
had
for
to like, I
sure.
remember like they were trying, because it was new, the show was new then, and this was like the first big herd, and they were trying to figure out how to get the right zombies to drop when you got shot. And I think they gave us all numbers, and they would scream out a number 5, but then 2 zombies would drop because somebody forgot their number. And so I think they just ended up started pointing at us. That's what I remember, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I think it was, or what I remember, and I don't know how accurate it is, but I remember it was kind of like, and maybe it just got to this point where we would be walking forward, and if you see the gun pointed at you, you know, in your general direction, you just fall,
Yeah.
you know, you
Mm.
And
fall.
it did make a sound when it fired, right? It was like blanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Back
think
then
it
it
did.
was, yeah. They changed that after a while, like with all the accidents and things. I think they just had rubber guns after a while, but when we were there, it was
Oh,
guns
really?
firing
No.
blanks. Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely it was loud if you're
Loud.
close. But you know, the part about that, and I don't know how much we should talk about
I know, huh?
our experience right now, but like because they were going to burn the barn, they had hosed down, the fire department had hosed down the entire surrounding area because it was like tall grass and all that. And it was freezing. So it all had iced over. This tall grass had iced over.
Oh.
And so when you fell, you would have to, like, I would fall because Glenn shot me, and that actually was on camera, and that's really my super favorite, you know,
Yeah.
memory
You
is that
feel
I got
honored
to,
to be shot by these guys.
yeah, like especially with my favorite
Yeah,
character.
yeah.
And but anyway, I would fall, and then I would have to wait there for like in the freezing cold grass for 2 minutes until the scene ended, and then do it again.
Mhm.
You know, so I'm just like laying in the grass, laying in this frozen grass, and like
You're like,
wearing a
hurry
shirt
up.
and a dress, you know, and no jacket or anything. But yeah,
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It was cold. It was very cold, and we were in not wearing not much. We had a long sleeve, but it was just one layer, and it was like, I don't know, like 14 degrees or something. And they would bring out
maybe not that cold
maybe that I don't know. We could see our breath. I know that.
for
And
sure.
so they would bring out. I've probably told this story before, but they had like carts of like fuzzy snuggies,
Snuggies.
and they were
Aw.
kind of bright colored, and we would put them on in between shots, right? And I remember one time when you and I were talking or something, and then they said background, which means we're filming, go, and we had our snuggies on.
We're still wearing our
We're like,
snuggies.
oh shit. So we're like, I just like pretended to be a zombie in a snuggie. And I don't know what happened with that. It's got to be on camera. Like, oh, what are these 2 idiots doing?
Yeah, who knows if
It's so
if it made it in, but that would be
hilarious.
so funny. But I remember, and this was another time. This because when I was in prosthetic, one night I was in prosthetic makeup, and so I was a little closer up to the front, and that was the night I got shot. They filmed the cars, and I got shot by Glenn.
Oh yeah, I forgot
But
about that.
like we were just waiting there in between scenes, or for it to go again, and I'm just shivering. Like the worst part was my feet, because I was just in these like little like ballet flats,
Mhm.
like no insulation whatsoever, standing in that frozen grass. And I don't have a snuggie because there wasn't enough for everybody. And Greg Nicotero comes over, and he's like, why don't you have a blanket? You're cold. And he's like rubbing my arm.
Oh.
And, and I'm like, there's not enough for everybody, because you really had to be by, what do they call them, a snuggie buggy or something
Snuggie
like that.
buggies. That's
You
what
had
they
to be
call
by
it.
the wagon in order to grab one quickly or whatever. So, but I was like, yeah, Greg's keeping me warm up there.
Oh.
That felt like cool and special for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember we used to the farm, it was just beautiful at night. The house was
Mm.
beautiful, and they had these big lights high up that would
Mhm.
shine down on it and just make it feel like a special place. And there was a lot of waiting around, so I would just go like sit on like a tractor tire or something and just look around and take in the scene and be in kind of awe. But then when it got really cold, we all piled in. I think there was a bus there, and we would just like snuggle up in the bus.
That's
Because
amazing.
there was
I remember one time, because it got to be, they sort of had to ask who wants to who wants to come out of the warmish bus and work. And I was like, I'm dead right now. I need to warm up. But you went out. You were like a trooper.
Every time they asked for volunteers, I did. And so that's why, if you know where to look, you can see me in about 5 or 6 different places around the farm.
That's incredible.
There were about 100. I think they called in 100 extras.
Yeah.
And how long were you? Actually, no, I'm going to save my questions. I will hold my questions.
Yeah, let me go. Okay, but jump in, you guys. If I was just going to go through this whole battle.
Yes.
Is that too much?
No, that's perfect.
So, Jimmy was trying to save Rick, and he thought Shane, which Daryl told him, go to the barn and get them, and he drives the RV over, and poor Jimmy was zombie fodder, and James McCune is the actor, super nice guy. He ended up coming to Walker Stalkers, one of the nicest ones. But I remember that night hearing his screams coming out of that RV.
It was chilling.
Well, according to IMDb, he is phobic of being eaten alive. I'm a bit like, is that a phobia, or is that just like a normal fear that we all have?
Right.
Apparently,
I think that's his worst fear.
According to IMDb.
Before or after?
Before. Like, he thought about it. That's what I always heard. Like, so he could really draw on that. Like, of course, no one wants to be eaten alive, but he was a person who apparently had thought about that.
I'm just imagining a chat with his agent, and they're like, so they want you for the show, Jimmy. It's called The Walking Dead. And he's like, that's great. Will I be eaten? And they're like, no. And he's like, it's a zombie show, though. They're like, oh, no, you're
His
fine.
agent's like, why do you ask that before every role?
Yeah, no. This guy, am I right?
And he went down in a massively gory manner, too. Yeah. I mean, that was a good gory scene. Poor Jimmy.
That moment where Rick looks with Carl, it's just like, with blood, and Rick's like, yeah, he's gone, bye. And then walks off. I'm like, this is great. I love it.
Got it. And
what was his name again?
James Allen McCune. He starred in the Blair Witch reboot too in 2016, but I don't know if he's been working much. I don't know lately.
Huh.
Yeah, he was good. So then Herschel's there firing off rounds with what became known as his magic shotgun. And there is a scene of him later frantically trying to reload, and there's a walker about to eat him from behind, and Rick shoots it. So I guess the magic shotgun only needs reloading when it's most dramatic. But during that scene, I was actually coming up in front of him, but it was off camera. And I remember I was going too fast. I couldn't, I was so excited. I just couldn't go slow enough. And I remember him saying at one point, I can't reload fast enough. Like I was going to get him before he could reload it, because he was actually reloading it, And Scott Wilson's like, you're too fast. I can't reload it.
Slow down.
Like, I'm sorry.
That's amazing. So you could have changed the whole course of the show and
I could have
Herschel down. You could have just been like
again.
I know.
See?
I mean, I was pretty close to him, and definitely Rick and Carl when they were coming down off the RV. Also, Shane. I mean, not Shane. Glenn and Maggie, except they were safely in the car. And then I was right next to the big blue truck too that T-Dog and Beth and Lori were in. Lori was just right there on the other side of the windshield. I mean, the window for me.
That is wild.
And then Daryl, well, gosh, Patricia gets snagged when she's holding Beth's hand, and poor Beth has to suffer another loss. And then a bunch of Zeds swarmed onto her and started chowing down. And I didn't get to grab her, but we chowed down on this like dummy on the ground that was supposed to be Patricia.
Excellent.
Yeah, I was right there. I was right there too.
And then Daryl ends up riding off with Carol, which I thought was cool. Just we were watching their budding friendship over the course of this, and he's like, come on, I ain't got all day. And but we didn't really talk about why Daryl went from being all pissy and not wanting to be involved or help to being a team member again. Was it just because he saw that Shane's status was going down, or he just needed a couple of days to process or something?
Dale told him he was a good man, which galvanized him a bit. And I think Rick, trusting him to go out on point with him and thanking him for shooting Sophia, I think he's just ready to step up into the mix. Or he's just a chaos merchant. Like, both can be true.
Yeah, when the shit really hits the fan, maybe he's there. Did you, by the way, Grace, because when I came in, we were filming this, but we hadn't seen Sophia come out of the barn yet, because that hadn't aired yet when we were filming this. And so the extras were like, oh yeah, Sophia was in the barn. I was like, what? So I got spoiled. We both got spoiled on that. But I then after that, I was trying not to get spoiled on anything else. But I did notice that there was no Dale around and no Shane around. But did you know the details of anything else?
I did know about Sophia. I can't remember I think it was the same with Dale. We just kind of noticed he wasn't there, so it was obvious that he was dead.
Yeah.
And like as far as Shane, we kind of knew that coming because of the comics anyway. So
yeah, figured.
I think we just assumed that was going to happen this season anyway, because it was really well. I can't remember what episode it was, like in November, what had come out, like. So I can't remember how far behind we were, but I think as comic readers, we kind of assumed Shane would go sooner than later. But Dale was definitely, I think, a surprise.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be.
And I was bummed because I was like, my view of this show was very much colored by the comic in a way that it's not now, because I've forgotten most of it. So I see things differently. Like I'm a little more annoyed with Dale now than I was back then, because I liked him so much in the comic. But anyway, I mean, that's about all I had for the zombie fight.
Very good. Yeah, and I don't know if you mentioned this the first time, but like when we were filming, they did have Herschel reload several times. Like he was reloading, they just like that just ended up on the editing floor. So which is kind of, I don't think they realized that how much of a joke that was going to become. In defense of the writers and whomever, but
I'd forgotten that, but it makes sense, because when you watch it, it's pretty ridiculous.
It's like more boring unless you said like it's imminent, he's an imminent danger,
Yeah. So what else, Grace? Your turn.
Oh, is it my turn again?
Anything else?
I think just the visuals, like and that's, I think during this rewatch, what I really hit me is just how gorgeous some of it was, and or just how cool, just kind of like at first, I think the first thing would be like that zombie cam like view when you're kind of, it's us looking out at Rick and Carl from behind, and you see the house and everything. That's just such a cool, because we know what's coming because we just saw this herd forming, but they're yet to it's yet to turn around. And then like the barn burning, and I think it was kind of even like this like kind of slow-mo, or is that just in my head? But it's like slow-mo and they catch it falling.
I think it's slow.
I do have a question about the barn that I feel is relevant here.
Oh yeah.
Did they really burn? Did they build something to burn? Because it looked really real. It didn't look like the fire was fake or anything like that. Like, was that for real, a barn on fire?
It was. Well, they built the entire barn just to burn.
Oh my
goodness. There was no barn there before filming. They built that barn with the intention of burning it.
Oh my gosh.
And the whole time we were filming over there was some kind of controlled fire inside the barn, so you could see it coming through the windows. Of course they had the scenes inside the barn when Rick brought the zombies in, which I forgot to mention. That was really cool too. But then when they lit it on fire at the end, I think they may have added a little bit of CG to make it a little bigger than it was, but it was pretty big. And the thing I remember the most is we were like, oh, this is so warm.
Yes, it was so nice. And actually, like, some people were kind of some extras were getting yelled at. They're like, don't go so close to the barn. But,
so
it really did feel nice.
Zeds are really drawn to the fire. You literally
they are.
Like,
I mean, it was hot if you got too close. It was like, and not even all that close. Like if you were, because it was such a big fire.
It was.
You didn't have to get that close for it to be too hot to handle. But when you were just the right distance away, it was such a relief.
It was a pleasant warmth.
Yeah, and they had the fire trucks there, off, there in case anything went awry.
And then I remember as it started to fall, I think like Nicotero or somebody's like, oh, let's get another shot so we can get it.
Run out. So we ran
Yeah.
out there like super quickly to do it one more time.
Because we thought we were done.
That's amazing.
It was, I mean, that was perfect. That was so awesome that they were able to catch that on camera. It was,
Yeah.
the visual
shot.
was great. And then the last one that I kind of had written down is just, and I had completely forgotten about this, is just when they kind of show off into the distance and show the lovely CGI prison. But I totally forgot about that. And just I felt like each one of these scenes like really kind of evoke a different, these different emotions, whether it's the dread with, seeing the zombie view, or and then the hope kind of when you see the prison and okay, there's a safe, thing to just some hope of the future of what's coming. And
yeah,
I just, I was just kind of amazed all over again by those visuals.
and for me, like watching it, as I said, with the comic way more in mind, it was just exciting to see the prison because they spent so much time there in the comics.
Yes.
So they're like, yeah, that's coming up next season.
Yes.
Although I'm going to be a Debbie Downer and just say it doesn't look much like the prison that we end up being in season 3.
It might not even be the same one because it took them a while to get there.
It looks very comic accurate, but I'm like,
yeah,
oh, it's
because they hadn't built it yet at the studio.
No, it's but like I forgive it because it's such a cool sweeping shot and it's such a cool taste of what's to come that I'm like, it's fine.
You're right, though. Yeah, looks like a whole different place. All right, what do you got next, Lucy?
What have I got next? Well, I had a whole rundown about the fall of the farm. It's always such a shock at the start of this episode when you're back in the house and everyone's worried about Randall because it feels like Randall's like a lifetime away. So everyone in the house is worried about Randall coming back. I'm gonna name it and say I don't think Norman Reedus gives his best performance when he comes back and he's like, oh yeah, his neck was broke. Shane's no tracker. I'm like, oh, this isn't great. And I like Daryl. I like Reedus, but I'm just like, oh.
What stood out to me is because he develops this gravelly, sexy, whispery voice that he uses all the time. And it stands out so much these early episodes because he's like, yeah, it seems like a good time as any.
he's like, Shane wasn't there. And I'm like, oh, okay. But I did also note a sweet moment where Laurie asks him to go out and check they're okay. And rather than saying like, fuck off olive oil or whatever, he's like, I will do that. So I love the awkward conversation with Carl and Rick where Carl's like, were you bit? What happened to Shane? And Carl's like doing what like all kids do, which is try and construct a narrative to make sense of what he's seen, like telling himself a little story.
Well, yeah, I was thinking because poor Carl, like,
I know.
Not only the thing that we're thinking about, he comes upon his father who just killed his father figure, and then he has to shoot the zombie version, but he thinks that Shane was bitten, and so he's just, as they're walking back, just wondering, did my dad get bit too? Which would totally be the thing to wonder.
Which, because no one knows at this point. Yeah. And so it's Daryl that says he thinks the herd's going to rip the house down because they do say, don't we just batten down the hatches? And he's like, no, unless there's a tunnel I don't know about. Carl essentially ruins everything by not being in his room when he's supposed to be, because that's where some of the hysteria comes from Laurie, is not knowing where he is, and that's where the group kind of diverges a little bit. But he also saved his dad's life, so we'll forgive you, Carl. I love the line, as you say, that Daryl says it's as good a night as any to die. I also thought it was really nice that Rick told Carl he loved him. I was like, oh, that's just nice parenting in the middle of the zombie apocalypse when you're about to sit there to commit arson and zombie murder with your dad who loves you.
I don't know. It gave me the feeling that he didn't really believe in this plan with the lighter and the gasoline.
Like, Carl's like, I just want to say, if this is the last time we talk, I love you.
I love you. Carl's
don't fuck it up,
no.
Carl.
Don't fuck it up, you little dickhead. Like, oh no.
Like, I really kind of thought, Rick, maybe you should also light the lighter, just climb up the ladder and do the lighter part yourself too.
Yeah. I mean, Carl's getting a bit literal baptism by fire here. There's some really cool shots of Glenn shooting from the car where I think the camera's on the roof of the car, so we're seeing Stephen Yeun shooting as he's being driven around, which is really cool. I've written that Daryl essentially sends Jimmy to his death by being like, "Do you want to go over here?" I was like, "Oh, Daryl," but he gets Rick and
see where all those zombies are. Go there.
Yeah, see over there, Jimmy, and Jimmy's like, "Oh,"
I mean,
he's
he
like,
didn't have to like open the door or whatever he did.
Who is it?
You know.
Hello. We shouted out Jason, bite Carl. That's in my notes. Kabasi, bite Carl.
Maybe Jimmy and he helped Carl and Rick by giving them something to come down, but I don't know if that was necessary. They could maybe just jump down or something.
I think if Jimmy had the choice, he probably would not done it.
Yeah.
Andrea clocks that they're going to run out of ammo before they even make a dent. I thought Hyundai were still getting some really good product placement in this episode. I thought that car did a fantastic job of not being too dirty and still driving very well in all the situations. Carol talks Laurie round about leaving without Carl, and there's this moment where Sarah Wayne Callies is standing on the porch and just kind of screams, "Carl!" And I think it's one of the best Carls that we get in the show. Laurie also kind of condemns Andrea's fate a little bit because she assumes that Andrea's been bit. You know, she says, "Andrea, go get Carol." And then it looks like they're both dead, so they decide to leave. And Glenn and Maggie follow. I thought it was really interesting seeing Maggie freak out so much, but again, when Peter kind of talked me through the context, so she's not really seen this kind of carnage on this scale before. It made a lot more sense. And I thought there was a lot of really good screaming in this episode. Like, people don't scream in later seasons of The Walking Dead, whereas this had some good like horror film screaming.
I think our first reaction as fans a lot of times, we don't want to see the characters that we like handling things badly, but it really makes sense for people to handle this kind of thing poorly, you know?
Oh, I loved
for
it.
sure. I mean, because she's coming down and like having to get all those emotions like out of her body, like they were just literally, you know, fighting for their lives and trying to save the farm and do all this, and your adrenaline's up and all this, you know, you need to come down. And you know,
well, she doesn't know if her family's dead either.
Right.
I thought Lauren Cohen did a great job, and I loved it thinking about where she ends up and how hardened Maggie becomes, but seeing her in this kind of much more young and vulnerable state, it was just kind of nice to think about that arc, although horrible thinking about how she gets to that arc. And yeah, the last kind of things we see are Herschel very nearly a goner until Rick does a kind of iconic entrance, and then Rick, Herschel, and Carl leave. Andrea's left behind. I feel so bad for Andrea in this episode.
She's like,
wait for me, assholes.
Awful.
Poor Andrea.
And then Daryl's kind of pondering watching the barn burn, but hears Carol and goes to rescue her, and then the barn collapses in flames behind them. And it's so quick, but it's so well done and well orchestrated, and just the complete decimation of the safe haven and the kind of false sense of security they've had. Oh, brilliant stuff. Iconic.
Just the only thing that would have made it perfect is if we would have gotten to crawl into those windows and just fuck up that farmhouse, because we couldn't. I think I've said this enough that everyone knows, but the people who own the house said you can use our property, but zombies aren't allowed on the porch or in the house because they were religious. And it would have made it so much better if you could have seen us crawling in there, you know.
And I think it would have made maybe a little more sense or made it seem overrun more.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
But, you know.
Yep.
They're playing by the rules. So.
Yeah.
All right. So my next one is the aftermath, which is, I mean, it really hit home this time that this whole season, like their safe space has been wrecked, Herschel's farm, and they're like ants scattering when someone stepped on the anthill. And the zombie threat this season was mostly pretty contained, a few stray Zeds here and there, some locked in a barn. For the most part, they're like a potential threat or a looming threat than an actual threat, except for Dale, but beside that. And then there's Randall and his group, which is also most of the time more of a potential threat or a looming threat. So most of the conflict and instability this season comes from the disagreements among the group leaders, Rick, Shane, and Herschel, on how to handle these threats. And so aside from the conflict within their own group, they've mostly been in this calm temporarily safe confines of the farm. But now that ends. They're confronted with the reality of the Zeds. It throws everything into disarray. It kind of, I mean, this, I don't want to trivialize this, but it reminds me a little bit of September 11th, where it's like, oh shit, we can actually be harmed. And then you start to panic, like, oh wait, reality isn't what I thought it was. There's potential danger. And they all have that vibe, like, what the fuck do? We got to scatter. I don't care about anybody else, or no, we got to go back. And they're just all sort of panicking, you know? And Carl wants to go back and try to get his mom, and Rick doesn't want to, and Carl's disgusted by that. And I did sort of think, wait a minute, Rick, aren't you the one that wants to go charge into danger all the time? Is it kind of funny that the one time you don't is when it's Lori? But I guess he wanted to wait there. He thought she would be back.
I don't know how to tell you this, Carl, but your mom's a write-off.
And then T-Dog does. I thought it was so funny. He's like, I got these two women. Let's just get out of here.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was like wanting to head for the coast. Yeah. He was like, they're on their own. Too bad for them. You know?
Yeah, and it's funny because Lori said, we should go to the place where Sophia. We were going to rendezvous with her. That's probably where they'll meet. And then just like 2 seconds later, he's like, "There's no way to even begin to start looking." I'm like, "Well, maybe you should start at that rendezvous place."
She just gave you a suggestion.
Yeah, it's like literally not that far away. It's not like you're going back to Atlanta. It's like it's there, man. You're fine.
Yeah.
Well, and the funny thing is, with T-Dog trying to acting like they were crazy for wanting to go back, and like he's talking to the two people that have family back there.
I know. I was kind of disappointed.
It'd be different if it was Carol or something.
Yeah,
but no, it's Beth and Lori, who both have family they're worried about.
It's too funny. You're just like, T-Dog, read the room, man. Read the room, Theodore.
I was just trying to get into his head because we didn't get enough T-Dog. I think Irony Singleton was good, and they should have given him more. And so we don't quite know his character as well as we could have. But I'm just trying to think how this makes sense. And it almost makes sense because of that, because he didn't get a lot to do. And so he didn't feel as integrated into the group. He didn't make those connections like everyone else did. And so it was easier for him to just be like, no, let's just get out of here, cut our losses, because he didn't have that connection.
Let's call it.
Yeah. And then Herschel, he, for some reason, just wanted to sit in a car, and if a zombie gets me, that's okay.
Herschel's having a day. Herschel's like, you take your boy.
And then he delivers his classic line.
I'm like, what you, okay.
I can't profess to understand God's plan, but Christ promised the resurrection of the dead. I just thought he had something a little different in mind. I always love that. But then he's telling Rick, you just need to take care of Carl. And then a zombie walks through, so they know they're not safe there. They're all worried about what to do. And then Rick's about to tell Carl they can't wait for his mom. And then just then everybody drives up all at the same time, and there's hugs all around. It was such a great moment because I guess Daryl's the one who rounded them up, because Rick says, "Where'd you find everyone?" And he goes, "These guys tail lights zigzagging all over the road. Figure you had to be Asian driving like that," which felt like
nothing like a bit of mild racism.
Mild racism. It's a little brotherly love, I feel like. I don't know.
Glenn's like, I'm Glenn, like,
yeah, good one. But anyway, it's a great moment because they're so happy to see each other, and the people who care about each other the most group together. Herschel's family and Rick's family. But then they take stock of who they lost: Jimmy, Patricia, possibly Andrea. So it was like a little bit of a roller coaster there.
Excellent. They all wrote Andrea off pretty quickly. She's either dead or she's somewhere else. Like, yes, those are the two things that can happen.
So do you have any more, Grace?
I mean, the only other thing I've had written down, we kind of touched on it, I think, earlier, but just the whole death of democracy, and, everyone basically is questioning Rick's calls, and, like you say, he becomes a little unhinged. I think that was just, that was a moment for sure. He's like, you can leave if you want, or you can listen to me. He wasn't having any of this discussion anymore. Nothing was up for discussion.
Why do you think he's like that? Was he just like, I'm tired of everyone questioning me all the time, or what?
Yeah, I think so. And like, especially, everyone was pissed. I think because he had made, I don't know, that decision. Everyone was mad that he had made the decision about not telling them that, everyone was infected. And I think he really felt strongly about that he had made that right decision. And because he really comes at Glenn when Glenn said, Glenn was questioning him. He's like, I thought it was the right call at the time or whatever. I don't know the exact quote, but so I think he was pissed. He was like, I'm just doing my best, and everyone's giving me shit.
I mean, he just had to kill Shane, or he would say he had to, and I agree. But he didn't want to have to do that. And the zombies just stormed the farm, and that was quite an event to go through. So I could see being kind of fucked up from all that. Then when he told Lori that he killed Shane, she doesn't even want to have anything to do with him. Carl's kind of disgusted with him. So I think, he's just at the end of his rope,
Understandably.
Yeah, it really does feel like that. It feels that, we were just, I just cracked up when he's like, I killed my best friend for you. And everyone's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you did. Wait, what?
Like, what?
Yeah.
Nope,
it's a good moment.
Yeah. That
Even
really
Carl's like, okay.
Carl just
so goes, that's really what happened.
I don't burst into tears. I'm like, that did not land how you thought it would. I had a point about the kind of dictatorship when the convoy stops. Rick doesn't want the group to split up. And it's the start of his quest, I think, that doesn't really ever end until they hit Alexandria, which is for shelter and for somewhere safe to be. But everyone is at odds with Rick here. Everyone is, Carol tries to talk Daryl into sort of running away. Glenn is upset with him. He's very raging because he told about the barn and Rick didn't tell him about this. And I think Laurie has an inkling of what might have happened with Shane. And I find the scene with Laurie and Rick so interesting because this is like the crack from which their relationship never recovers. And Laurie, she looks horrified when he says that he did it, but Rick, to be fair to him, explains he had no choice. He gave him every chance. He was acting like Rick was in the way. I think Sarah Wayne Callies is really good in this scene, but where it starts to turn is when Rick says, I wanted it over. I just wanted it over. I wanted him dead. And then the bit where it's like the absolute fucking final straw is when he says that Carl put him down. And I think at that point, it's just gone beyond anything that Laurie can forgive.
That's a lesson for anyone in an argument. If you have something that will escalate the argument and you can save it for later, maybe save it.
Yeah, maybe just don't ask Carl how his day was. Like he's not doing so well. So I feel that moment, that to me is like that's the death of the Grimes marriage right there. Like when we see them in season 3 and things are so bad between them, I doubt they have a conversation after this point. Like I think that's it, and it's so tragic. And I remember the first time I watched it being really pissed off with Laurie and being like, but that's what you wanted, like, and he did it, so why are you being like this now? But now I think I was trying to see where the moment really is for her, that it comes apart, and it really is when he says that Carl got involved, and maybe in that sense it's a bit more understanding.
Well, who let Carl out? Who wasn't watching Carl?
Probably fucking Andrea, but yeah. Let's face it, it's probably Andrea.
No, he snuck out. I think she was projecting a bit,
Yeah.
I don't know, with the anger that Carl got involved when,
right.
He should have been keeping an eye on him in the house. Though I did have a lot of empathy for Laurie. I can't remember if I did originally or not, but even though, the point that she did ask, she did want Shane dead just an episode or so before is a very good point. But I wasn't really thinking about that last night when I was like, well, he's ranting and acting a little scary. And so I could kind of understand.
Yeah, it's a lot about, with Rick in this whole sequence, it's a lot about how he's saying it versus what he's saying. Because a lot of the things he's saying make sense, but he's just he's on a crazy rant.
Oh yes.
Yeah. I just think she has this "who are you" kind of moment. Like this is not the Rick I know kind of.
Right.
Who have you become?
He's like peak local man shouts at sky. Like he's like, like if you saw him on a news bite, you'd be like, oh wow, okay. Like, but I thought, what I thought was interesting. Daryl still in Rick's corner. Like Carol
Yeah.
tries to win Daryl over, and Daryl says he's done all right by me. He has
Yeah.
honor. Like,
I
and I
like
think
that.
that's kind of answers your question earlier about what's brought Daryl back into the group. And I think he does have faith
Mm.
in Rick. Which, given that like the first time they met, Rick had just handcuffed his brother to a roof, and left him there to die,
Yeah.
is pretty strong, you know.
And Daryl can identify too with feeling angry sometimes, you know?
Yeah. And Rick, like the bit where he loses it, he's, you know, he gave me no choice. I killed my best friend for you people, for Christ's sake. My hands are clean. Send me a postcard. Like top Rick sass. He's like, yeah, you found that place. Send me a postcard. So I think he's just frustrated that he did probably the hardest thing he's done in his life up to that point.
Yeah.
And he's not getting backed up on it. He needs someone to tell him you did the right thing, and
Yes.
nobody's willing to do that.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody is.
Because
Even-
he's always, this whole season, he's been making big decisions and then going back to Lori and kind of fretting about it. And sometimes she will support him, but this is like absolutely not.
Yeah. It's rough. It's really rough. It's hard to watch for sure.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's my point is Rick kind of loses his shit, and they're like, Rick is saying we need to find a good place that can be fortified to settle, which is like, yeah, that makes sense. But he's not saying it in an inspiring way. He's saying we just have to find it, like that.
Yeah. You fucking morons.
Yeah.
He needs to work on his delivery a bit.
Yeah. And like, I don't even remember that from the first time. I think I just was blinded by the comic, or maybe I did feel that way, but I forgot. But watching it now, I'd be like, yeah, if I came upon this group right now and I saw this guy, I'd be like, who the fuck is this guy? We gotta get away from this guy. And then they're asking questions about Randall having turned but not bitten, and he tells them when they're all infected, and then they're upset. And I would be too if I found that out and Rick had kept it to himself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it really matters practically all that much, but one way it matters is if somebody dies, you need to, you know, knife him in the brain, or else you could be in danger.
In Rick's defense, he didn't know for sure until Shane.
Yeah.
And I for me, I think the biggest difference it would make is in like morale.
Yeah.
You know, as someone who you know, I really like this like post-apocalyptic kind of stuff, but like I would be the first to like jump off a cliff or something like that. So I think news like that it's not like this temporary thing that is gonna, you know, be over in a year or something like this. This is always going to be the case, or so it seems.
Yeah.
It's not that it's easily escapable, but it's just, I don't know, it just seems so much more heavy when you know that just anyone
it's in you,
anyone who dies. Yeah.
It's something psychologically to come to terms with, and also if you just you're like, fuck man, I'm going to be a zombie when I die, you have to like make an agreement with each other, don't let that happen to me. Just, you have to think about all that kinds of stuff. It's dark.
It's really dark.
So then Rick's alone with Lori, and he, as always, spills his guts. He says, I killed him. And, you know, the things he's saying I think are right. Shane made a plan to kill Rick. You can't let that stand. And he says, I gave him every chance. And then Lori's upset. And yeah, she's especially upset that Carl was the one to put Shane down, but she should have been looking out for Carl. And now she's pissed and won't even let Rick touch her and giving him dirty looks. And I don't really sympathize with her. I mean, only in that this is just a really hard time right now and people aren't their best selves. But Lori said in episode 9, you know, when he found out that Rick killed those two guys in the bar, Tony and Dave, you killed the living to protect what's yours? Rick says, that's right. Shane thinks I'm his. He thinks the baby's his. And he says you can't protect us, that you're going to get us killed. He's dangerous, Rick, and he won't stop. So it sure sounds like she's telling Rick, you killed someone to protect us from danger. Well, Shane's dangerous. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Right? So then to have this reaction feels like such a betrayal. And I don't know if it's inconsistent writing, or, I mean, she's kind of flip-flopped all over the place with Shane, like lashing out at him one moment and then asking him to stay and not leave the group and apologizing to him and then telling Rick he should kill him. So it could be that she still has feelings for him, but she's trying to repress them and just kind of all over the place. I don't know.
It's sloppy. I think it is a bit, the
writing. It's like a contrived way to set Rick off in this moment, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Though, life and love is kind of sloppy too at times. So
it's true. You know what? That's very true.
Yep.
But the way she like pushes him away, man, it's like oh my God, it's brutal. Like it's really
you feel
brutal.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like she is disgusted, like, oof.
Yeah. I feel like Sarah Wayne Kelly has been in that situation before. She knows how to play it. So they're all deciding whether they should follow Rick, and Carol's like to Daryl, we're not safe with him. Keep something like that from us. Why do you need him? He's just going to pull you down. And Rick's like right there. He's like, I can hear you. And then Daryl says no, he has honor. And then they hear noise and they're panicked and freaked. And Rick's like, no one's going anywhere. And Carol's like, do something. I am doing something. He's just screaming, I didn't ask for this. I've killed my best friend for you. And they're all staring at him, and he compromised. You know what he's like, and that's true. He compromised us. He threatened us. He's good at sort of boiling it down. He staged the whole Randall thing, led me out to put a bullet in my back. He gave me no choice. He was my friend, but he came after me. All true. But he's not saying it calmly, and he should be. Like, he should just, if he just said, you know what he's like, he came after me, he tried to kill me, but he's like, hey, you know? And here's the thing, what I think. And then he's like, this is not a democracy. If you think you can do better, there's the door. Like, I feel like most of the time, Rick, and this is just my opinion, but he's not a man with a lot of ego about his decisions and stuff. He's just trying to take responsibility for everyone, protect everyone. But when people complain, it rolls off, or I don't know. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy that's so defensive, but here he's very defensive, and he's Shane. Like, I think that's the point of this, is that he's taken on characteristics of Shane: erratic, aggressive, ruthless, a hothead, and domineering. This is not a democracy anymore. So people like listeners and fans would often say Rick takes on the characteristics of the people that he kills or that he goes up against. And I sort of thought that was a cute idea, but I didn't really think too deeply about it. But here it does feel like that he's really taking on Shane's persona here, to me.
He's just a man on the absolute end of his tether, isn't he? He's just
that
absolutely like, and doing something that literally ripped his heart out, and then having people be like not impressed or even willing to be like, yeah, that makes sense. They're all just like, what?
I think a little too much came out at once for for everyone to handle.
It
was an ugly scene. It was a bad scene.
For sure.
And then so Grace, you said when they see the prison, it's like hope, and I think that's how I saw it when I first watched this. But here there's also a hint, I think, of, because he's just now saying, you guys think you can do better out there, go on ahead, but if you're gonna stay, then it's my way. It's not a democracy. And then they show this prison, and maybe that's like a metaphorical prison that they're finding themselves in, oh, we're stuck with this guy. So my last one is Andrea's scorecard, because we've been watching Andrea and Lori because they're very hated, and I want to make sure that we acknowledge when they do good things. And I think Andrea was great in this episode. She was cool and collected, used the skills that Shane taught her with the gun to help protect the group. Even before the zombie attack, when they're all nervous about Rick and Shane coming back looking for Randall, Andrea wants to go look for them. Lori doesn't want her to. He says, if Randall comes back, we're going to need you. Does that mean that she's accepted that Andrea is a capable protector, that maybe it's a good thing? She wanted to focus on shooting rather than cooking and cleaning, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Then behind the farmhouse, there's two Zeds headed towards Carol and had her cornered, and she grabbed this stick and she was freaking out, and Andrea shot them both. And I think, Carol later, of course, would have been able to handle that, but now she's not there yet. And I think there's a decent chance that Andrea just saved Carol's life. So
yeah, she really
there you
did.
go. If not for Andrea, we might not have Carol. Yeah.
100%.
And then at the end, she's separated and running for her life in the woods, and she shoots a bunch of them. And if she hadn't learned to use a gun, she'd probably be dead right there. Runs out of ammo. She stabbed one, I think right in the the nasal cavity with a knife. I don't know if she's the first one to ever do that. I don't know, maybe not. But then, of course, she's about to die, and then there's a hooded figure there with a katana and her two armless pets.
Best person ever.
First Michonne. Not Denai Guerrera, if people didn't know. She wasn't cast yet. And then I just had it down to mention that we see another version of this scene in season 10, episode 13, Michonne's final episode, when she's been drugged with a hallucinogen and imagines this alternate version of her life where she ignored Andrea's cries for help and ended up joining the Saviors. And I remember wondering if Laurie Holden had come back to film that, but then going back and checking, and they just repurposed clips from this scene, but then had Denai Guerrera in there doing other things.
Doing her thing.
So, yeah, points for Andrea this time.
Yeah, I think Andrea did pretty well. I mean, I would be fucking so dead. I am not good at running. So I was very impressed that she kept going. I was like, this girl jogs. I was like, she knows. I did think for someone who's suicidal like 5 minutes ago, this was quite the turnaround, but I was glad to see it. I was glad that Andrea was still fighting, and that entrance for Michonne is just so cool. It's so so cool.
All right. Notes? Any notes, Grace?
No, I'll just chime in with you guys.
Okay. We'll see.
Maggie can shoot. You grow up country, you learn a thing or two. I like this. The women are coming to the fore, and I'm enjoying it. I guess I have like, maybe this is a point, or I don't know, but it's interesting. So everything kind of leads back to the road and the cars and the focus on the Sophia message and the focus in particular on her name. And I guess it sort of leads me to the question of, is season 2 bad? Is it one in which we just circle and don't ultimately get anywhere? Or how do we feel after a rewatch? Because after a rewatch, I think I like it better than I did. But I can still see the argument of like, there's a lot of futility in season 2 and a lot of kind of false security that doesn't really pay off in the end. So I don't know. I just kind of wanted to open up the question. Was season 2 bad? Was it good? I don't know.
I mean, I think it's pushing the characters in the direction where we need and want them to go, or, kind of what really makes them who they end up being in a big part. This is like the little first seeds in a way of them really being tested, and
Yeah, I agree with that. Knowing where Rick's story goes, this is a good beginning to